Okay, so I want to set up Yascade so that we can do a creative project. So I'm going to set this up as, what do we want to call this? KRI, we'll call that. Because for the sake of the argument, this project is going to be about a character named Cree. Now, let's go and, so I've copied the default project over here to a new project. And we're going to set this project up. But before we do, let's take a look at assets, nothing there, outputs, nothing there, templates are there. Okay, so there's no documents yet. So let's open up MDR. We'll enable the content. Let's make sure that this is set up properly first. So references, no, it's using the wrong reference again, so we've got to close out, save and close. Right out of Excel, open back up again, go to developer, going into Visual Basic again, and okay, so it's not alias there, so we'll go to references and we'll go browse, and we'll find it on our on the computer here. It's in Y folder, and we'll set it up to the MCP and go okay. So this one here is now referencing MCP, which is in the Y directory. Close out, save, close, reopen. Okay. So now, just to show you that that worked, we'll go to Tools, References, MCP is now aliased under Y, so we'll close that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to delete everything that's down there. And I'm going to get rid of all the color coding. So let's go home, no fill. Okay, so let's go to no fill as well. Okay, so over here I've got open the elements of creative writing: character, point of view, plot, setting, dialogue, style, theme, and motif. So the nice thing about using Wikipedia as a source is you can find some pretty cool information there. So this is going to be chapter 1, but let's call this KRI. No, we'll go to CR for creative, and the department will be the KRI, because that's our project, and that's what I want my numbers to look like. So status, we will go 0 on that for now, and let's go book 1 project notes. We won't get to chapter 1 just yet. We'll set up our project notes first for book 1, and we'll go actually let's change our type to B1 for book 1, and that way we don't need to put book 1 there. So we're going to go project notes, and we're going to go chapter 1. Chapter 1. Okay. So far, I've got my project set up the way that I want. Now you go trunk, branch, and leaf are different, but I'm going to set a new trunk for this chapter, and then as I go, so let's get it ready for, like, you know, this many chapters here. So here I've got a whole bunch of things. Why don't I go like that, copy that, go off into a sandbox area that's off screen right now that you can't see, so I'll show it to you. So it's on screen there. Get rid of this. Go 1, 2, 3, 4. Go up to fill, series, autofill. And then go copy this down. And then go back over here and go equals this. Put the little and symbol all the way over the right again. So now this one here is just a code, and I'll copy it down. So there, it's got no space there, and I'd like it to have a space, so I'll just put a space there and copy that down. And I'll stick a space in there for me. Okay, so now I've outlined about 14 chapters. And I can add chapters if I want. But that's the first step. So now my MDR is ready to go. If I hit Control E, it's going to open it up. But I've got it set up for safety systems. So I want to change this. So first, right off the bat, I'm going to get rid of the color coding on these because those are for my safety system. And I'm going to get rid of all of these prep sheets. So I'm going to delete those except for the node one, because the node one is just a basic sheet. So all of these could use node. Sorry, where am I? Off screen here. Okay. Let's go back to these. So I can use node for each one for now, except for the proc one, which is ignored. I like to keep revision control here in case I need to output this and show it to someone, so they know that the revision control is there. This is the revision control sheet, the MDR sheet. So that's how we keep track of when we do our revisions. So today is the 18th of August. So we'll change that to the 18th. Whoops. And there's our date. So none of these are going to be exclusives, because it's not an attachment. But if I wanted to stick like a glossary in or references or something like that, I could add it as an exclusive so that it would only output one of the sections that I wanted. We'll get to that later. So for now, I don't care about any of this other stuff right now, just because I'm not working on formatting right now. Right now I'm working on getting this set up. Revision, we'll do Rev O for this. So this is the very first revision of the book. And okay, you see over here I've got another little sandbox set up so that I don't have to hand edit each one of these. The trick with Yascade is you really want to make it so you're not hand editing a lot of things. So let's go and do one of these. So all except for Z. So let's make that Z1 for revision control, and the rest are going to be A's. And we'll do the same thing with fill here. You can't see it, it's off screen, but I'm doing fill in series, and I'm doing the autofill again like you saw before. Now, purpose, terms, obligations, we'll get rid of all of these. I'd like to know what the purpose is of my chapters. Like why? Like why am I doing this chapter? What are some terms that are in the chapter that I'm referring to? And this is, again, this part is going to be mostly for reference, right? So, in fact, not all of these are going to be A's. So I don't know which ones are going to be A's yet. But purpose terms. Okay, so we'll go back to Wikipedia, and they're saying character is, so characters. I'd like to have a list of the characters that I want to feature in this chapter. POV, but I'll just do point of view. So whose point of view is it going to be? And if there's multiple points of view in the chapter, like if I want to write this like a serial novel that's got sections in the chapter, and you see different points of view from different characters throughout the chapter, I might want to put some notes in there about that. And let's look at the plot. Okay, so what are the key plot points in this particular, whichever chapter there is? Setting. Whoops. Setting. Okay, so what's the setting of the chapter? And dialogue. Dialogue's important. I'll put all my dialogue notes in there. And it's off screen, you can't see it. But the style notes, we want to have style notes on what we're going to be doing. Theme notes. And let's look at what motif is a bit, just for sake of it. So these are reoccurring elements, and I don't expect you to necessarily really care about this too much, and this is really just the sake of the argument. But motif is it's contrasted from theme. So it's not a topic, it's more of a reoccurring element in the story. So maybe we should just keep these together. Theme and motif. So we'll keep them together in case some chapters are they're going to be more thematic, and some are going to be more motif. Okay, so what else we've got? So these are really good starting points for the book itself. And then what are some other things that I want to do? Let's look at technology, because I'm into science fiction. So technology is probably important, although that could come in under motif, but I like to keep it separate just because there could be some technology research there too. Timeline's important. Okay, so now I've got to add some rows. So I'm just hitting Control X there to move this down to give myself some space. And what are some other things that I want to include? The moral of the chapter. That's going to sound hokey to a lot of you, but from my perspective, the argument of morality, if something is moral, it answers the question of whether or not, if everyone in the world, or if every character in the book did the same exact thing, would this be a good consequence or a bad consequence? So for me, moral, like an underlying moral, is really useful in the sense of predicting what should and shouldn't happen. Now, another section is like an astral section. So like we can talk about different things that are happening on like a macrocosm. Let's do macrocosm, and we'll do another section for microcosm. So you can really add a lot of layers to your book in prep using this. And let's do a section for illustrations. Illustrations, diagrams, charts, maps, that kind of thing. Let's do a section for poems and songs, because I'm a big fan of J.R.R. Tolkien, who loved to put poems and songs in his work. And you know, it's funny. I've talked to authors before about writing poetry books in the past, and you know, the general consensus is that poetry books in and of themselves are so rich, you know, and deep in meaning and stuff like that, but you can get this sort of sick feeling as you're reading so much of it, that using poems in a literary work is super useful, because the story itself, you can't get the poem out of your head as you're reading the story, but the story gives you that ease of, you know, something else is happening here, something else is going on. So it's really it's useful. And so I'm a big fan of putting poetry and song in literary works, as opposed to having works that are only poetry or only songs or only literature, because I think when we're doing prose, we really want to focus on our story and everything that's going on, but at the same time, it's really good to have that sort of break for the reader. So in the last one should be prose, and that's our actual the part that we're writing of the book itself. So I can move this up. So I'm done this part. I'm going to give prose a B. No, let's give it a C, and let's give poems and songs a B. No, let's go B, C, whoops, D, and we'll copy A down. So basically the A stuff is all my A stuff here is going to be just the stuff that I'm doing to prepare the book, and the illustrations are there, the poems and songs are there, and the prose is there. And I may want to put these poems and songs in different parts of the prose, But I can do that after the fact. I can do that in my word editor. I can move things around as objects, right? The idea is just getting stuff written down. So, and then the last one is going to be Z, because that's our revision control. Okay, so here we go. I've got my document set up. So if I hit Control E now, it's going to build me a document that has these tabs in it here. But so I don't need these other UDRs that I prepared. So I'll delete these other two because I don't need those. So I've got exactly what I need, and everyone here is going to use Node. However, now that I come to think of it, it would be handy to set up these a little bit differently. So let's do a new term sheet. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll copy Node. I'll go move or copy, click copy. I'll put it after or before vars, and go okay. And there's Node 2 down at the bottom. So I'm going to change that to terms because I use terms, so I'll change it. Because what Yascade's doing when it builds a project is it's grabbing this template and sticking it in. It's using that template for that sheet that it's building. So for terms, let's look at our node types over here for a second. Now these are a mess for what we're doing. These aren't going to help us at all. The titles are useful. However, no, it's, these are useful. I'll use those. Bullets are pretty useful too. Numbered ordered list, probably not going to use those. Probably not going to use bullets. So, we'll just have to wait and see. Okay, so now we're going to set up our node types. These are the nodes that the numbers here represent. So if you see a number 8, it's going to appear as formatted by whatever template's listed. This sounds a little complicated. I'll explain. So, first things first, I want to get rid of all of these formats because I just want to keep this really simple for the sake of the tutorial, but also when you're writing a book, your publisher is going to want to publish it their way anyway. And if you're self-publishing, you can go ahead and set all of these up and use HTML and all the fancy stuff that you want. But for the sake of the argument, let's just keep it real simple. So first things first, I'm copying 0 down for all of those. I'm leaving the red stuff alone. This red block is for ebooks. So this tutorial is not about an ebook. Okay, I'm not using this to write an ebook. I'm just using it to write a novel that I'm going to put into Word and go PDF with it for the sake of the argument. Okay, so you notice up here where it says para 12. I'm going to copy this all the way down, except I'm going to keep exact because exact is useful to have. I'll get into that later, but we don't, we won't, and we want exact to be available. So we make that a 1. So let's make sure that this is colored properly. We'll color this, a nice pale blue, and we'll color these up to paragraph 12. We'll color these like a brown because we're not using those. So really, I've only got these set up. In fact, let's take a look at this one more time. 21, 22. Terms. So I'm going to need 2 nodes for this. I'm going to need a term, so whatever the term is, and the definition for these. So, let's look at setting those up. So term. Term. So look at those. Those are going to be enclosed. These will be formatted. These are not going to be formatted. So I'll go ahead and remove the fill on those. I'm going to go term and definition. So I'm going to copy. These little descriptions just help you, remind you. That's all that those are. Those are for you. those aren't for anyone else. So now let's take a look at this. Okay, so I don't want to align this right. This is just going to be block paragraph, and this is going to be another block paragraph with an alternate font or something like that. We'll figure it out. So it's formatted, it's not enclosed, it's all by itself. And this definition is going to be enclosed. It's going to be a bullet. So we'll enclose that. And that way, if you can add definitions to a term, because there could be like definition 1, definition 2, definition 3, but the term, it's only one term. And really what this enclosure means is, for example, the number 8s. If I have a series of 8s on a node sheet, so I'll just use this as an example. If I copied this down, okay, hypothetical, as soon as Yascade sees this, it's going to go, oh, that's a number 8. Is that a number 8? Yes, it is. Is that a number 8? Yes, it is. And what it'll be doing, as soon as it finds the first one, it's going to use that UL tag, and then each subsequent number 8 that it sees, it's going to use the LI tag, and then when it reaches something that's not a number 8, it's going to close out, and it's going to use that closure, the /UL tag after. So if you don't understand HTML, don't worry about it. All I'm saying with that is the enclosure, whether or not a node is enclosed, has to do with whether or not it has a wrapper. And I'll show you that when we do the actual template. So now, here are the templates that we need to do. I'm going to take these into a text editor and go like that, just so that I have them as a reference. And I'm going to close these other things that I have. The editor that I'm using here is Crimson Editor, or Emerald Editor now. And that was a little post that I made. Okay, so here's what I need to be creating for the project. And the other things that need to be there are listed in my MDR. And they're, I'll put them on screen for you so you can see them. Okay, so the other things that I need are the outside, the dock, and the let's call that SDRC. Let's keep that dock, and let's call that out. So these are other templates that I need, and that's the I don't want that safety, I want that my project name. Okay, so I've set up everything that I have to do in Excel right now. So if I go ahead and build a sheet, I'll build the project note sheet right now. It goes through and it builds it, and it gives me an instability error for some reason that I'm going to have to find out. There's a reason for this. Let's see what happened. So I was looking for node, I was looking for term, and how did I get to A12? I got to A12. Oh, that's why. Okay, so you're going to get those type of errors, and it's good that we ran into one, because I forgot to increment these. When you add a sheet, so when you add a workbook, when Excel goes to add a sheet, it can only add something that doesn't exist. So we tried to add A12 again, and it screwed up, because you can't add a sheet if the sheet's already there. You can't rename a sheet to the same sheet. So that was really actually good that we saw that, because those little errors happen sometimes. So right now it's off screen, but I'm going up to fill, series, autofill, okay? So now, B, we want that to be B1, we want C to be C1, and D to be D1. So, okay, my mistake, but now we're good to go. Now, what to do if this happens to you is close out of the sheet that was open. Don't save it. Just close out of it. Go and check and make sure that it's not there. It isn't there. Okay, oh no, I'm in the default project. Let's go to KRI. Yeah, it did make the sheet. Okay, so I'm going to delete that sheet from the docs and save the workbook. So let's go back. Right now, to get off this sheet, I'm hitting Control E. Now I'm back on the MDR. So to build this project notes section, or let's just do chapter 1. We won't even do the project notes yet. Chapter 1, I'm hitting Control E, and this is what's happening. So it builds purpose, terms, characters, point of view, and all the way down using the proper sheets, right? But notice terms, I thought I had set terms up to be a little different. No, I didn't. Okay, so we still made another mistake there. I want to do term 12 to term 13. So in my default sheet for term, I'm going to put these in, remove the formatting on them because I like to have my, I like to have this the way it is. So term, definition. Okay, so now term sheet's set up properly. So we'll go back to this other book that I made, and I'm going to close it, and I'm going to delete it again. Now, chapter 1's there. Now, let's think about this for a second. Are there any other of these that I need to do? Well, characters, I could do the character's name and a description of the character. In fact, I could probably do a really big setup for characters to help. So I'm going to go ahead and prepare that, and then I'll come back when that's done. Okay, so I've decided to start making some changes to the MDR to support character preparation. And what I've done is I've done my chapters here. I've changed those, and project notes is still the same. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some character information. And so for the UDR, I think purpose, A01 purpose is a good idea to keep that for little comments about the characters. So it's just going to be, it's only going to output that section for this particular document, but the rest of it will go through. So let's go to copy that, make that as 0 because it's going to be all of it. Cree is our first character, so this is going to be all about Cree. And notice purpose of the character, things about the terms and stuff like that. Perhaps this could be a discussion of characters in Cree's life, to like direct people, like we could talk about them. Cree's point of view, we could talk about the main plot about Cree, the setting about Cree, the general setting. So maybe we have more settings or something like that. Things that Cree likes to say, like maybe catchphrases or something like that, or his attitudes and dialogue, like we could talk about that. His style, themes and motif and stuff like that sort of overlies the the setting and the plot a bit. But technology associated with this character, we could go through his whole timeline. So you see how, like, it's funny. I seem to have isolated that in writing, whether or not you're talking about an entire project or whether or not you're talking about all of these, like a character in a project, these things relate. So these are like, there's microcosm and macrocosm. So that's kind of neat to have that information. This, what I'm building here, what I'm building up on using Yascade is creating sort of a really rich background, and that's something that Tolkien did. In his writing, he created this huge, rich background of things that happened way before the story. And probably he had notes that were very much like this. An expert on Tolkien could tell you exactly about that, but I'm not an expert on him. I just think he's kind of cool. But for the sake of argument, this is an example of what we want to do here. So going back to the MDR, because I want to fix this up a bit. What I'm doing is, let's do another character, and so under characters 2, 3, actually characters 1, 2, 3. Let's give Cree his own branch. of writing. So here's a neat little trick that I like to do. Go to thesaurus. You can use any thesaurus. I'm not affiliated with these guys at all. So look up a word strong, any word, right? Able, Cain and Abel, solid, stable. So just finding character names. This is a little, so stallant. Maybe I'll just do like a play on the word stalwart, because I don't want to use the word wart, but so stall in? No, better not. Stall. Stalks. That'll be this other character's name. There, you can tell I play D&D sometimes. But anyway, so here we go. So these are 2 characters out of all of the characters that we've got. Now, notice how it's all out of sync now. I've got 1s after 2s over here in this column. So you see my branches and everything. So how I fix this is I go up and I select this entire block. Make sure you select your sandbox if it's using references too. Otherwise, you're going to mess it up. Then you go up to data and you go to sort. And we're going to sort this on, my data has headers, trunk, branch, leaf. That was already put in there because in my default project, I'm always sorting on these. So what that's going to do is going to go smallest to largest. So as soon as I hit OK, boom, everything's back. So actually, I kind of want to add something before chapter 1. So, and all of these numbers are the same, so I have to fix these numbers too. And, you know, I think really I gotta, the chapters should have their own branches. But would I want to add something between chapter 1 and chapter 2? I might. You know, I might add something there. So actually, let's go to chapters. So this is going to be a bolded section. And this chapter should be 020101. Chapter 1, 0201. This is where you got to think about this stuff because it will catch up with you if you don't. So it can't, no number can be the same. I want to keep my leaves at 1, so I'm going to make this 2, 3, 4. Delete those. And go up, like again, it's off screen, don't worry about it. It's series, autofill, okay. So now my numbers have corresponded ahead of time, and I've got to sort this again because I added a row just to do an outline for chapters. Because I may want to talk about the chapters and the way the book's laid out or something like that. So once again, we'll go up to data, we'll go sort on trunk, branch, leaves. And A01 is the output for chapters, okay? So I'm only going to use this, so just the purpose, I'm going to be talking about the purpose of that section for the chapters. I may actually, chapters and preface, or should I just do a preface for that? Yeah, that's good, because you always have a preface before a book, right? And for the preface, actually, I should keep that. I'm going to do everything for the preface because, well, we'll see. Okay, so back to, so I was saying I was going to do characters, right? I was going to talk about characters. So right now I'm going to go ahead and develop some things on what I want to do for characters for nodes and some preparation stuff. Okay, so essentially that's all that I really want to do for the preparation for the spreadsheet right now. We could do more later. But right now I'm going to switch to the template. So each of these has to be a template, and each of these 3 things have to be templates too, because we're going to be using them. So let's switch over to our folder for templates. Now, I think, you know, rather than import a whole other template list, I'm just going to do this as a new directory. So we're going to do create template. This is like going to be a template. So let's go here. Now you can grab stuff out of the other ones that exist, which I am going to do. So I'm going to copy these over, because these, here I'll show you what they look like. It's the nice thing about Emerald Editor, you can just grab stuff and throw it in there. Okay, so the first title, so here's our CSS for the title, and you know, padding left, blah blah blah, text decoration, size is pretty good. Did I copy these from Simple? Yeah, I think I did. I'm just going to close all of this except for that. I'm going to delete those. I'll grab standards ones. Here it's off screen, I'll put it on screen. So I'll grab, I forget which titles we put in. So there is a title 1 and a title 2 all the way down. So I don't like to use title 1 and title 2 very often, because those are used by the system. Well, those tags that it uses are used by the system. So I'm just going to copy 3 to 7, and I'm going to put those into the KRI folder, and I'm going to edit those. So these are a little different. So we'll start with this one. Colors there. Okay, so time to do these templates, and I've got a couple of websites open. You can use any site. I just Googled these guys and got CSS Desk. So let's look at, so the div is there. Let's go class equals me, and let's go me. So what this does is I brought in my CSS into this, and it's showing me hello world, what it looks like. Okay, so I like the color. So no, the color I want to change. Background color I want to get rid of, because I don't want it to have a background color. Color itself, I'm going to go to another site and go like that. And I don't particularly like that for writing or for even titles. So I like to do sort of like, I mean, like a sort of a dark purple for titles. Nah. Go with like dark brown, green, yellow. Let's do like a yellow, red kind of thing. Okay, so tabbing back over, and we'll put that in over here. And so that's what our titles will look like. You know, if we do that. So let's bring that in and paste it in what I just changed. So I just changed a couple of things in it just for the idea. Now I'm going to just keep the same color. Title 4 color could be black, that's fine. Title 5, again, get rid of these background colors. I don't know why I had those before. Could be that I had something in the behind it or something. But for this, it's going to be considered transparent. That's what I like to do. So, okay, so those are good. This is going to be sort of a red, and get rid of the background color again. And that's going to be, that'll be a blue. I guess it doesn't really matter. Maybe I should just keep them all the same color, except for the 4s. Again, you can tweak them later, and that's fine. Get rid of that background color. get rid of that. Okay, so our title templates are all done for this project. What else do we have? I'm going to get rid of these. Title 1 and Title 2 will not, their status is 0, meaning that they won't be used. So we've got Title 3 to 7. The ULs, they're enclosed, so I'll show you how that works. I've already done them in standard. You can see them under UL. So you see there's A and B, and we're going to just copy paste those in, and whoops. All right, let's get these guys right in here so we can take a look at them. Okay, so our UL opener, ULA is the opener and the closer is the B, and what's in the middle that repeats is really what we're looking at. So for indents, fine. I don't want a background color again because I want to, you know, if I decide to make the background a different color, I don't want these big white blotches on it. Let's see what this color looks like. So that's kind of a, I don't know. Let's just do 292929. I'll show you what it looks like. It's going to look like that. So it's not a full black, but it looks really, it's pleasing on the eyes. Calibri again. You know, sans serif for writing, for authoring like novels and stuff like that is probably not advised. So I'm gonna see what I'm gonna go do some research and come back when I find a font that I like. Okay, just testing this out. I've decided to go with Georgia as a font. That looks pretty good. That looks good so far. Okay, so there's our UL template. So this is what's going to open it. We'll have a bunch of these for each one, and I'll have that. Now let's go and do the next template that we need to do. So OL can be the exact same on the inside. So I'm just going to copy this, except there are going to be some differences because you've got some other things to consider. So we'll go to standard, we'll go to our OL 9. So we need all three of those to copy over to the Cree folder, and we'll drag those in. Just take a look at them. The margin's going to be the same. What's going to be different is what's in here, and strange. So list style type is going to be decimal. So I'm going to just take this out here, just paste it down there temporarily so I can get this, delete that, go to the UL, copy that, paste that in, and we're gonna go list style type, whoops, just copy decimal instead of disk. So it's gonna be decimal, so numbers. So if you, any CSS, you know, copies over pretty well from my experience. And you know, a lot of CSS designers swear by EM and stuff like that, but when you're copying and pasting into Word, which a lot of people do, it's really the EM stuff just adds a layer of predictability. So if I was doing this like as an ebook or something and I had total control using CSS, which is probably ideal, I would be looking at proper CSS. So this is good enough for now. And again, like when you're prototyping documents or when you're doing your prototypes, it's important just to have something decent that works. So and you know, you can change it later. So just getting traction, getting moving is what's more important than anything else. So I've opened this up again because I'm going to be copying over now the paragraph stuff. So para 10, 11, 10 and 11 I need to copy over. Whoops. So whoops, copy that into the Cree folder, drag it over. Okay, so para 10 and 11, the differences that I want to do are going to be, you know, that's going to depend on a lot of things. But for now, I can just copy the margin left. Georgia's good. Line height's good. We don't need the style type. Margin bottom's probably fine. View line top is probably fine. Okay, so I've added the text indent so that the first line will indent a little bit on my paragraphs. So now I'm just going to copy that whole block into 11 and just make it a little bit different. So for the 11 blocks, we're going to do, what could we do differently here? I'm going to do it with like an italics or something like that. So, I don't know. We'll leave it for now. 10 and 11 will look the exact same for now. And if, you know, later I'll come back and change those if I need 11. I might not even need an extra paragraph thing. So term 12 is going to be a title, right? So the best way to do that is to copy a known title already. So I'm going to copy and paste title 3, and I'm going to call that term 12. And I'm going to bring it in, and I'm just going to change the color of it. So let's look for a nice color that we want to change it. So that's what it's going to look like. Let's make it like that. So it's like this sort of pale term looking color. That's fine. Okay, and the second thing you need to know is the definition one that we had, term 13, is going to be like a UL. So I just copied it, and I'm going to call it term 13. And then I'm going to go down here, and I'll paste term 13 underscore A. So that's my opener for term 13. And there's my closer for term 13. Whoops, I'm going to get rid of copy, or else it won't work. Okay, so let's bring in the opener and the closer is the exact same. It's going to be the exact same as my normal bullets. But what I do, what do I want to do differently here? Instead of a disk, let's just go square. So it'll have square bullet points. I mean, you could do anything, right? You could change those, make like, well, when you change, like if you use graphical indent, like list style types that are graphical, Word, when you go to paste into Word, it'll just ignore it. So, but it does pick up on square for now. Again, you know, Microsoft's got to catch up with the way things are, and I'm pretty sure their next version of Word and stuff like that will be more volatile. I mean, flexible. See what I did there? Okay, so we'll see. So we're done. We're done that part. Now, what else is left is we have to go and make sure that we have in the MDR, we need a page wrap that says out. So let's look at our other page wrap that we had before in our standard. And we used, like, what were we using in the other one? Okay, so here I'm going to close right out of my project to see what I was using in the other one. Let's see what we're using in, we'll go to open the safety thing here. We're using outside dest. No, I don't need to save that. So close back out. And we'll poach from here the outside dest. So it's only A and B because it's just a wrapper. There's nothing, everything else is going to go inside of it. And we're going to paste that into our Cree template. And we're going to change the name of it to out. And let's see what it does. Let's open these two up and we'll see what they are. So the first one is just an opening for doc HTML. That's just, you know, you don't need to worry about that. And then the title of the document is put in here. So where that title is located is when I open my project. So when I open the Cree project, I'm on the Cree folder there, and I open this project. It's in my variables. the main title is what's stuffed in on your document, your document opener, and then so that's the outside one. And what's the next one is doc. So I believe I have doc already done in the standard one. There it is, doc A and B are there, so we'll paste those into KRI. Let's see what they look like. So doc A looks like, okay, this is where it gets a little interesting. For the sake of argument, we're going to leave these as they are. When you go to output your actual book, you're going to have to change this to something else, because you don't want to have the ID number for everything, right? But when you're doing your preparation, having an ID number is like really, really useful for citing things and for making notes, like so you can go ahead and print things out, scratch up your paper, and you know where everything is. I'll show you that in a bit. So we're just going to keep doc the way it is, and SDRC wrap. This same thing, I'm going to do the same thing for the SDRC wrap that I did. Now I was using this one, and I'll just use it again in KRI, except I'm going to delete this first part because I called it SDRC instead of whatever this was. And I'll show you what that looks like too. And so SDRC A, it's an H2 that opens with the title, so it tells you what the title of the SDRC is, and then it does a right arrow, and then it tells you what the document name is, and the colors and everything like that are useful. And it's Georgia, so that's fine too. Let's make this 14. Let's look at the color. So we'll go back to our color picker that I used. I don't like that color for this, so let's use just a sort of a gray brown kind of thing. No, let's use green. Sort of pale green. No, dark green. Yeah, that looks fine. Good enough. And it's going to have an underline too, which is useful on top and bottom. So that'll be useful to basically. Now this, again, these SDRCs you're going to want to change for your final output too, because really you're not going to have your titles there. And so like, let's say that I eliminate this swap 1 and swap 2. Yascade's going to look for it. It's not there. It's not going to put anything there. So it just skips it if you do that. So we're done. We're absolutely done everything here. And let's build our first document, or let's build a bunch of these just to do a test run and see if we run into any problems. That's what I like to do. Okay, so I'll just build that one. So there's the project notes, there's the characters, and we already did Cree before. Let's do the preface, chapter 1, chapter 2. I'm just hitting Control E to go back. Okay, so right now, Control E again to go back because it wasn't on focus on MDR. Control E, Control E, Control E, Control E, Control E, Control E, Control E. Just keep hitting that hotkey. Again, I could probably build something that would build your whole project for you if I wanted to, but I like to build my documents one at a time. I'm only building all of these just for you. Just for you. There's chapter 13, lucky number 13, chapter 14. Okay, so here's, everything's done. Let's look one more time at our variables. Okay, so I already changed the project title to Project Cree. If I change it to something else, I'll rename it. There's no ISBN yet, and that's only important for, that's only used for ebooks. So I'm the creator, publisher, contributor, the rights are mine. The rights are mine. The date is today's date. What else? No. Yeah, that's what I've done. So I've just done it. This is, most of this stuff here is for ebooks too, so I could probably push it down a bit. Outputs are, we're gonna put everything out. UDR is there. I'm formatting in this, Independent, let's go false for that, and let's use the KRI template, and I renamed KRI, and we are going to use exclusives on this. So the ones that were exclusive, so there should be 2 here that are going to be exclusive, characters and preface. So my preface is going to be, actually, preface should not be the purpose. It should be my prose, because it's the writing itself. So we're going to go D01 for that one. The purpose for characters, that's what you'd want to do, right? Because that's a reference. Now again, when you're doing the book output, you would just change these to zeros. So it's only going to output your book, which starts with your preface and goes down. You know, and the same thing, like you can build more columns off to the side for using Rexstat. You can just move stuff over if you want. And then you can have it so that you just copy paste different rows so that these update. Let me show you how to do that, just so that, just for the sake of the argument, because this is where it gets useful. So you see my status is over on the left here, 0001111. Okay, so let's say that I want to have a column for that. So way over here, I'll save these, because these are just the numbers, right? And I'll save these different. Okay, so there's 2 types of output. So this one that I'm doing right now is only going to do the chapters. But let's say that I just want to do my notes in the beginning, and I don't want to have the chapter stuff in there right now. So all I do is copy that column and paste it in there, and notice it updates it. So for now, let's just output the whole thing, because I showed you how to do that. That's all I needed to do. Okay, so now Control W to build the project. So right now it's grabbing all those templates that we made and it's pasting it in the way that it's designed. And it's going through each single document. And takes a, you know, when you have a project that's this size, it takes maybe a minute for it to run through, and it's almost done. And it's done. Okay, so let's take a look at what happened. So here's our outputs, and guess what? It's all independent because I forgot to save my variables. When you edit this sheet or you edit this sheet, you have to hit Control K to output the variables. So now I'm going to run it again. You got, like, I make mistakes on it sometimes when I'm doing this, and you know you're going to make mistakes too, but you'll learn, and that is part of the learning curve for this, is that sometimes there are things that you've got to do differently. Well, it's okay. So another thing that I noticed just now when I rebuilt this project is that I had a document that had the same number. So that'll propose a big problem. So what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and change all of these numbers again. And it seems like a pain in the butt, but you know, that's because it is. Project notes, characters should have their own trunk, and the book should have its own trunk too. So now that I've given the characters their own, I can leave this as a 10101. Characters have their own 02, 01, 01, 02, 02, 01, 02, 03, 01. 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so those all have their own now. The unfortunate thing there is that now I have to go back and delete my documents that I built and then loop through and build them again, which I'm doing now. Seems like I'm wasting your time doing this. I am showing you this though, because you know this is one of the issues that you can run into if you don't build your documents correctly the first time. So it does take only a couple of minutes. I mean, if you had to do this in a book after if you had originally written everything out, and you had all of the numbers the way that you wanted it, and you realize that you made a mistake like this, you would be hours doing it. Hours. Can you imagine? Because each of these books has like so many different sections written out and everything, and if you had to do a find and replace, what if you replaced some of the stuff that you wrote? Oh man, it's just a hassle. But this is pretty easy in contrast. So I'm going to go ahead and build the project now, and it's building. It's sewing everything together for you, okay, like the sewing machine that it is. And then we'll take a look at what the final result is, and we'll see if it turns out okay. And if it doesn't, we'll work it out, because that's the whole point of these video tutorials, is to, you know, work together on doing something. So here we go. So again, those are the new documents, and here's the output is the KRI document, and here it is. So my first one, my project notes document, my the character study. So there's the characters. Notice the characters only did the purpose, because I set for characters. So the purpose of characters, like you want to just do a little blurb on, you know, what our characters are like. Kree is the main character, you know. Stalks is a backup, is Kree's, let's see, Kree's master. So these are just little bullet points that I'm just going to have for that one. And, you know, this looks like a lot of garbage in here, but you notice it's built it so that when I start adding things, we'll be good to go. So let's work on the project. Let's start doing the project notes. So the purpose of the work itself, you know, for the project, this outline is to overlay the entire Kree project from a bird's eye view. So terms and definitions, we haven't got anything there yet. Kree main character. Kree's the main character. So I'm using Control T to move to the right and Control R to move to the left. And the reason why, don't get hung up on the letter R or the letter T. The reason why is on my, I'm right-handed, right? So on my left hand, I hit Control R and T. I hit Control with my pinky. I'm hitting R with my index, and R is on the left of T. So so R is left and T is right. So it's set up on the keyboard that way. You're probably, if you're left-handed, you're going to want to rebind these macros. But okay, so let's look at the characters. So for the project, Kree and Stalks are our two characters that we're looking at right now. We'll add characters as we go. And we have our own sheets on them already, so we don't need to define who they are or anything in here. We'll be doing that somewhere else. So again, it's good because if you wanted to, here's where it gets interesting. If, say, you're writing and you don't know which character to use next, you could use a rand between bottom 0 and 100, and whoops. So if I just copy, paste, 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 paste. See how it changes the numbers like that? So say you have like a list of 20 characters and you don't know who's going to be the one to do it. You could do this and then do an order. And then whoever has the highest number is the guy. That's just a little thing you could do. Anyway, okay, so the next one for point of view, Kree. It's Kree's point of view. This story is about Kree. Okay. Now maybe there's gonna be times in chapters where we'll decide to use another character's point of view, but generally speaking, it's from the point of view of Kree. Well, let's list a couple of point of views then here. Let's create a new character. Nah. Clax. Ian Clax. There you go. It's probably awful names. Every literary person that's watching this video is laughing. I don't care. So again, I added a character, so I'm going to add Clax. So again, so the terms were, I just put Cree there as a main character, but let's actually do, is the world in which the story takes place. Again, this name I'm just coming up with it as I go. Okay, so I added another character, so I'm copying over. So, okay, what else? Point of view, Cree and Clax. Clax's point of view. Clax, let's say that Clax is like a ghost or something. Clax and 4. You see what I'm doing? Watch what I'm doing now. There you go. You realize I'm just sorting it, right? So I'm just going to sort by trunk, branch, and leaf. My data has headers, and there we go. So there, Clax is stuffed in under stalks. There. I like to end some characters' names with X. I'm just doing this just to show you. That's the only reason. So we'll get into those in a bit. Let's keep doing project notes. Plot. Cree has discovered a hole in a cave leading to another plane of existence. I don't know. Make it up as you go, right? That's the plot of the book. That's the whole thing, is to discover this opening somewhere. Setting, design, setting, Earth. We're destined to write another Battlefield Earth here, I think, but it doesn't matter. As writers yourselves, you'll be able to use this tool better than I will. Dialogue. I'm not going to get into dialogue. I'll just make that TBA, which tells me something. Haha. My node thing, instead of putting the word sample there, let's just put TBA, so that every time that I create something, if I add chapters, it'll use TBA instead. Unfortunately, though, I am going to be stuck with the word sample for now, and I'm not rebuilding the project now. So let's go back to project notes. See, I'm just flipping through here. So dialogue, we're not going to talk about too much. Style. TBA. I'm not sure yet. That's something I have to think about. Theme. Science fiction. What are some other themes? Religion? Science? No. Religion? No. No religion. It's banned. I've banned it from this work. So there are no religions for some reason. Sorry if I've just offended everybody watching this, but some of you will laugh. Technology. Physical technology only. Nothing mystic. So, whoops. I got that instability error because I hit the Control D button and I had nothing copied. Control D is what I use to do the paste value. And if you have nothing there, it's like, well, you didn't copy anything. Whoa, right? So what's the next one? Timeline. Zine. So this is a title, Zine's timeline. Opening of the portal to Earth, which is a major event for them that Cree is going to be involved in. I just came up with that just now. So again, sparking things. Okay, so here we have to Earth. Copy that over. And so that's the timeline. We can add some things to this timeline as we go. But let's create another timeline a little further down for Earth. And let's talk about, okay, so what's going on Earth at this time? Let's say Nazis won World War II, which is a horrifying idea, but the idea is, what's the world like? Extermination camps. It's a pretty scary thought. Checking spelling of that, just make sure that's right. Suppression of ideals, races, classes, Hitler assassinated, rebels, rebels assaulting key strategic targets, technology suppression, atheists versus religious. Okay, so some of these are, you know, themes and ideas, but on both sides, conflicts. Okay. So, opening the portal to Earth, discovery of commerce, war measures, whoops. Okay, so what else? What else do we think of for a timeline? So far this looks like a B movie at best. But you know, whatever, we're just sort of playing around in the sandbox here. We got some ideas. Assassin's Guild formed. So looking over this, so we go back over the ideas again. So Zion is where everything takes place. We don't need any other terms there. Point of view, we have 2 points of view. We're going to learn about clacks a bit. Cree discovered a hole in a cave leading to another plane of existence. You know, this is an idea that's been just pulverized in a lot of films. So the plot of this book, Cree ascends to power. So this from streets. No, I don't want to. It's too. It's been used too many times as well. Cree ascends to power from poverty. So power, yeah, that's a better plot overall than the sci-fi plots that are about like a wormhole or something like that joins worlds or something. I'm deciding now that that's a bad idea. So we're going to take Earth out of the settings. Earth's not here, it's just design right now. Earth may come along in the future. There's maybe some way of getting there or finding it, or maybe it's in the past, or maybe it's in the distant future. We're not going to decide that right now. Dialogue, let's talk about dialogue for a second. Okay, so for dialogues, in an overview, you just want to kind of understand the dialogue. Okay, so I'm going to say the first rule is going to be there's going to be no adjectives or very minimal adjective use. So what this is a constraint I'm placing on the project. So if I'm talking about a cup, I'm not going to talk about, when I'm writing, I'm not going to talk about the cup in ways that are not relevant to the plot. So if I'm saying that, if I'm talking about someone's cup and how much they love it, I'm going to talk about why they love it. But I'm not going to be using adjectives in that. I'm going to be describing the actual factual parts of it. So I think, and by that, let's also put a constraint: no adverbs or a very minimal adverb use. And I think descriptive words, I'm just putting a constraint on this so that I'm not using descriptive words in a way that is like you read in all of these like really trashy novels, like so and so is an archer and he gracefully pulled back his bow. You know, like I'm not going to do that. It's going to be more like, you know, Cree climbed a tree, nestled into the brush or something like that, or not nestled, like just sort of describing the tree itself. You know, I can talk about what kind of tree it is, I can talk about how old it is, I can talk about the way that the branches are, but I'm not doing it in a way that is going to be overtly descriptive at all. And so if somebody's performing an action, like if someone runs, I'm not going to say someone is running very fast. I'm going to say someone's speed was enough to achieve what he needed to do. So it's going to force me to really think about what I'm writing. So the style of writing and the style of this novel should be fact-based. So it's a factual account. It should be an impartial account through observation. So that's where Clax comes in, because Clax actually is going to be an ethereal character, meaning Clax is just an ethereal, I don't know, ethereal. Let's go with ethereal. So essentially Clax just basically is hanging out, monitoring everything. And he's we don't know anything about him. He's totally unknown. And Cree is unaware of his presence. And the reason why I'd like to have a character like that is so that I can do a narrative of what's going on from an alien perspective. So an idea is like, not aliens like aliens, but like a different cultural perspective, completely cultural. So no religion, cultural themes. Let's do Sein cultural, Sein culture. So Sein culture. So this is about Sein. This is about assassin culture as well. And it's physical, nothing mystic. Yeah, that's good. So Sein. So Earth is gone. Yeah, I just don't want to go there. Sein opening the portal. No. Timeline. First timeline would be Cree in poverty. City's cruelty towards Cree. Uncaring. No, not cruelty. Coldness towards Cree. And those like Cree. Okay, so Assassin's Guild's way in the distant future, so bullies bullies in terms in lowly. I don't want to use those bullies. Just bullies. Timeline. City officials abuse Cree. Cree accused of petty crime. Capture. Torture. What else? So this is all about Cree, but this is the timeline. So what else? Okay, so yeah, this story's been told a lot. So capture and torture. Cree crimes of survival. Cree eluding capture. Cree pinning crime on abusers. An abuser. A city official. Some abuser. We'll find a name for that person. So, okay, so this is a more interesting timeline so far. So what else? What else could happen? Abuser, arrested, tried, convicted, and sentenced. Cree enters City Watch. Cree plans murder. Of wealthy family. Cree executes plan. Perfect. I got another one. Cree notices a boy his age who looks very similar to him. Okay, so this is laid out so far, so good. Executes plan. Cree assumes boy's identity. Checking spelling. Sign's not in there. I'm going to add sign to the dictionary. I'm going to add Cree to the dictionary. Officials. Oh, I didn't spell that right. Okay, so. And okay, so as a start, this is really good. Cree is discovered. Cree's crime is noticed by an unlikely, by a sympathetic party. Okay, so Cree is abducted and forced into the Assassin's Guild. It's hard to tell whether assassins should be pluralized, but I'm going to say it's not their guild possessive, it's the Guild of Assassins. I don't know what to call them yet. We'll figure it out. Okay, so this is just a little timeline right here. Okay, so now I've got like, okay, so you got this kid in poverty, and you know, you can talk about his life. I could go into, you know, a chapter about his life, you know, right there, and then, you know, the abuses that occur and the things that happened. You know, backstory, probably around. Should I do flashbacks? That's the question. Should I be doing flashbacks at all? No, because you know what? Because it's fact-based and it's impartial account through observation, we're not going to do any flashbacks. So everything that happens to Cree and the way that he reacts, we're going to have to decide as a reader what it means. Which I think opens the door to wide possibilities for people to decide what it meant, as opposed to telling them what it meant. I think when you tell a reader what things mean, you're thinking for them, and that's not the job of a writer. You're not supposed to be thinking for your audience. You're supposed to be presenting an idea. Now, life isn't a movie, so at the same time, perhaps there should be a lot of dissension. So this can't be a movie. This isn't like a movie that I'm doing here. This isn't. I want to try and have this as close to the way that things would be. And this is. I mean, if you do something horrible and then the wrong people find out about it, then they realize that you're an asset and you become an asset and you're just taken into the guild. So they realize that he is capable of becoming an assassin. And then, okay, so the next step, Cree's. What is it? It's his Cree's trials and tribulations within the guild. Actually, that's garbage. We've seen that so many times. You know, that's been in so many novels, but the trials and the tribulations. So Cree's training. Cree's success. Cree's completion of Cree ascends from novice to Redderkin. That's for the D&D heads out there. Okay, so Cree's first major assassination mission. So planning, no, okay. The meeting of a new benefactor. Ideally, each of these will be a chapter, okay? So this actually helps me because now I'm going to know how many chapters to write. So the meeting of a new benefactor, and I'm capitalizing meeting. No, I'm not. The meeting of a new benefactor. Remember, we're not going to be doing that kind of thing. So the meeting of a new benefactor is, yeah, let's not put the cart in front of the horse unless we have a, yeah, never mind. The meeting of a new benefactor, Cree's first major assassination mission. Planning, execution. It's a little bit of irony in the choice of words there, perhaps. No, it isn't. That's the one. Oh, look what's happening here. Okay, so notice I've got my cells have become unaligned. This happens sometimes, and the way that I correct it is I just delete everything there, copy the top one. I'm hitting, okay, I'll tell you what the keys are that I'm hitting so you can see, because I move really quickly through the spreadsheet. So here, let's start from the beginning. Okay, Shift, right arrow key, Control C, right arrow key over, end, down, left arrow key over, Shift, and then holding Shift, hit end, and then up, and then Control V to paste. And that gives me everything is aligned again. And that's really the reason why in this we're doing all of this. So execution, so his mission's over. So his first mission's a success, we'll say. Narrow escape sounds pretty garbage. That sounds like garbage. So we're just going to talk about the mission, and then what happens after the mission, aftermath, and then horror at the end of the novel. I'm going to end this novel on horror. Okay, so here's what we have. Now, I don't need to put Zine at the top anymore. So instead of just deleting this, because it throws everything out of whack, I'm going to delete these. I'm going to copy here, Control C, I'm going to Control V paste over Zine, and you notice how these cells up here have aligned themselves. So same thing I did before. So here's the timeline, and guess what? No, I got to decide what each of these chapters is, right? So I'm not going to decide the chapter names now. I'll do it later. Do it at the end after it's written. So moral, people are animals. If you notice this, you've got this kid who's an animal in poverty. He's behaving as an animal. He's being horrible, and then he's being horrible. He's had people are being horrible to him, so everyone's treating each other poorly. And he's doing his crimes to survive, and then so on and so forth. So next, that's going to be the primary moral in this, is that what's the next thing? When in Rome, and nothing is black and white. I don't like using black or white in the sense that I don't want to talk about color or lack of color or bright or anything. So nothing is nothing. Why am I talking about nothing? I'm not talking about nothing. What am I really trying to say here is I'm going to say contrasting views of the same perspective. Evil thinks it's good. I mean, that's pretty standard fare. But I mean, it's not. I don't believe this is trite. When in Rome is a bit trite. However, I think the idea is, if you're in a situation, you're stuck in the situation, and life is hell. But it's hell for a lot of people until you find the way. So evil thinks it's good. So no, we're not going to go there with anything else. So these are some morals. I'm going to revise these later. Macrocosm. Okay, so the big picture. Global society is evil. This is the big picture of this world Zine that I've created. That the entire world exists on this feudal evil sort of way. However, instead of the word evil, let's go to our friend the thesaurus. Thesaurus. So evil. Let's see what it has to say, because I want to take the religious content. Corrupt, destructive, hateful, heinous, hideous, malevolent. I mean, really what we're saying is we're talking about destructive. Destructive's interesting. Corrupt is kind of boring. We keep hearing about corruption in the news and stuff, and I think everybody's bored about that. Nobody wants to read a book about that. Global society is destructive. I think I could do a lot with that. I could really do a lot with that. And in terms of the macrocosm, that actually affects the morals. Let's do a moral about when in Rome. When in Rome is kind of sarcastic. So let's look at what could I do? What could I do? Okay, so here we are. We're just back here. We're just going to add some things to this project. We've got the timeline here. I'm just going to copy the timeline over for reference because I'm just going to work on settings for a second here. So we've got the city. So for the settings, we've got the world is Zine, locations are Yashimo City. So these are all in Yashimo City. Gutter, the sewers, what else? Okay, so Cree's gonna commit some survival crimes. Home, market. Let's do what else? Let's do the merchant's home. The the university. What else? Where are some other places that we could have this occur? City officials. Okay, so the City Watch. Their City Watch location. We can add stuff to that in a bit. So what else? Is an abuser convicted and sentenced. The court. Magistrate's office. Court. Let's just call it court. What else? Okay, the money lenders. Money lenders shop. Money lenders home. See, rooftops. So these are all like little settings that we're just sort of identifying what they are just based on the timeline that I had written. So the professor's home. No, study. No, it's the office. So that's a university. What else? The front. I know. Let's come up with a character by Athentine. And let's add that character to the list by Athentine. Athentine. Pie's books. Bookstore. Let's just call it Pie's books. That's his. That's the front. That's the assassin's front. Guild front and the guild. The guild hideout. Of course, you can like rename stuff later, but what else? So the guild sellers, guild dome, guild training hall. And you could preface these with titles, so let's actually do that now. We're gonna do five, so a lower title, and we're gonna call that the guild, and then we can get rid of these. Training hall, what else? Tavern. Spice Tavern. What else? Guild. We'll just leave it like that for now. Okay, so what else? Trainees, Redicans, major assassination takes place at the university again. Okay, so far so good, but you know what? I'm gonna mess this up a bit. Okay, so just want to see gutter, sewers, market, merchant home, university. Okay, so university, we've got one other thing that's going to go under the university, but maybe we'll add a couple. And let's give this a 5 title, university. And buys books, rooftops, moneylender's home, moneylender's shop. Those are 2 separate locations, so we don't file them under the same thing. Court and the magistrate's office are going to be the same. So let's give those court, magistrate's office. Let's go court, courtyard. Whoops. Let's go. What else? What else? What else? Okay, courtyard. We're gonna have the commons, the library. Okay, so those are at the university. We're gonna stay out of classrooms for this for now. Court. Okay. Let's look at moving this down. Okay, so we're out of timeline on that, but let's just move this up. Rooftops, and let's give this a smaller title, 5. Okay, so we're going to call this structures. Okay, and then under structures we have these other things. Okay, so these are like actual locations over here. So let's go back up to world, copy this down, run a spell check. Doesn't know what Yashimo is, we're gonna ignore that. Doesn't know that, doesn't know what Vetterkin is, that's fine. Okay, so we'll get rid of these. We don't need those anymore. And those are the basic locations. So that was pretty quick. It was based on our timeline. So the nice thing about Yascade is that you can project ideas from early on ideas, and then you can correct ideas from early on ideas by, like, as you're going through, right? So by using multiple spreadsheets, it's almost like creating like a multiple dimensional array, in a sense. If you're a programmer, you'll understand what that means, of your information, and actually being able to visualize it in a spatial matrix is useful. Okay, so next. People are animals. People are animals. And let's expand on that. So civility is false, meaning when people are being civil, they're masquerading. And I think that's a good common theme that you find in a lot of medieval literature that I still like. So I like that. When in Rome, we don't want to involve Rome, so let's go mimic. No, I know. Fake it till you make it. Now, I can say stuff like that in my notes because the way it's going to play out, I'm not going to have, the language isn't going to be like that, but the people are going to be acting like that. Contrasting views of the same perspective, and contradiction between rivals. So evil thinks it's good. That's a good theme. Okay, so those are good themes so far, so good. And rags to riches is another theme, obviously, if this guy is going to be ascending from a point of poverty into greatness. So what else we got? Global society is destructive, is a macrocosm. People feed on one another. No, let's do this. People use one another. I don't know if I like that as a macrocosm. Global society is destructive. Life is let's not talk about that yet. Okay, so microcosms. What can we do is like the nuts and bolts, the small stuff, the little stuff. Every moment has to count. Actually, everything from that just makes sense. Blind alleys exist but are avoidable. So we'll have less intelligent characters in this as well. We'll get to those in a bit. So illustrations, TBA, I'm not going to be including any of those right now. So poems and whatnot, TBA. Let's put some constraints on the poems. Okay, so let's look at poems. And constraints for poetry in this work would be poems distract. No, poems are a sad, happy. Each word must be a cataclysm. Each word must be a cataclysm. I like that idea. What else for the poetry could we do? We could say let's say chapters could begin or end with a poem or a song. So I'm putting a constraint, so I'm not going to be infusing this in the middle of a chapter necessarily. I think that's distracting when people do it. I know a lot of authors do. They just all of a sudden a song erupts. I don't like it. I like poetry to be in the beginning or the end to sort of reflect what's going on, and then you can talk about the poem existing in the story if you want. So the person's already read the poem and they know what's there, and I think that'll give them some time to think about what they've read. What else? Poems. Each poem must have a living or deceased poet, and either state will not reflect the poem. So a guy that died can't be writing about death. A guy that was in love or something like that is writing about something different. It's just a different idea. It's a constraint that will make this unique in a sense, right? Because I don't think enough authors really consider this type of thing before they begin writing something. Some of them do, but this tool obviously makes it a little easier because you're structuring in a way, doing your planning, and it seems quicker. So what else? The characters will never meet the poets. Because this isn't a story about the poets. The poems aren't there for that. They're there for other things. What else? The use of unknown words is encouraged with a stream of consciousness style. So that's the style of the age. That's the popular style, is the stream. So that'll give me a chance to really, really enjoy writing some poetry there. So let's look at songs. No elves, no dwarves, no gnomes will sing. Okay, that's a rule. Tolkien's done it. I don't want to do it. One might be asked to sing and he will immediately kill someone for asking. I don't think I'm going to have elves or dwarves or gnomes in it, but I mean, if you've got like a really short person, no offense to anybody who's height disadvantaged, but you know, that could be it could be humorous, but I don't know, politically correct. I don't know if you want to go there with this anyway. I don't know. We'll see. But the idea is, okay, at the very minimum, it's not going to happen, that singing thing. Okay, so in terms of bards, will be only literary. No, bards will be of only the highest class of citizen. The purpose of any bard is to subdue dissent among lower class. Bards are killed for, if any, smear a higher class. Okay, so it's a very classist system that it's living within, and bards are slain by that, but they come from the highest families. Bards lose their family title when joining the service to prevent corruption caused by the great. So rule descends from to prevent another civil war. So I'll have to do backstory on that. Okay, so what else? Songs and poetry are have their own songs and poetry have their own okay, no, let's actually go. Songs are the views of the highborn in a hope of swaying workers and businesses to serve any particular family is desire. So this is just sort of an idea that I've sort of thought of, is that the bards would be like this kind of guild in and of their own, and their whole purpose would be to exist in order to kind of create a propaganda, whereas poetry could be written by anyone, and any poet, and some poets would be unknown, you know, sources and stuff like that. But the songs are there, so if there's like someone singing a song or something like that, and it's written, then the idea is you could try and figure out who it was that wanted that song sung in the place that it was sung and at the time that it was sung, right? And some songs could be a distraction. They'd be used for nefarious reasons and stuff, and perhaps we can have some fun with that. Okay, and the last section is the prose itself. And for this section, we need to actually put some constraints down about prose, in which case, you know, I don't think I really want to get into this right now. So let's build the project. And we're looking at the first project notes. So it's going through and building them all. But, you know, to build an entire book and quickly format it is like this. I mean, every time you make like little changes in here like that, you can just quickly reformat it. I'm not doing any thinking right now. I'm not doing any kind of trying to hustle through and get it done or anything like that. So let's look at our outputs. And okay, so here's the output that I just opened, and it has our document number there. These are the project notes, as you can see there, right? So this first one's a project note. So this talks about the purpose, and again, we put the project notes there because this could appear on several pages. And what else? So dialogue, themes. I've got everything that I just put together there, just listed nicely. And you know, my timeline is there too. And you know what? I think I'm actually just gonna bullet point that timeline just right now. So let's go back, open this up. Let's go back to the timeline. Now, those are the settings. Where's my timeline? Okay, so let's make these 9s. And the other thing that I want to do is, because I'm not going to be putting these, I don't need to put these other projects out anymore. So let's just build this. And we'll just build project notes. It just went through like really quick that time. And here's my outputs. And so there's my timeline. So it's like actually in order. So there's 21 different things that are occurring throughout the course of this book that are major events that I'm going to be bringing the readers through. And you know, morals, macrocosm, global society is destructive. Like that's a decent idea. I like that idea. So you know, it's almost like building a prison over the entire world, and that's kind of like what this particular society has become in the story. That's what I want to do. Microcosms are every moment has to count, and blind alleys exist but are avoidable. You know, I mean, I'll add things here as I go, like when I'm writing, and then it gives me a chance to go back and think about it. You know, so it talks about the poems and the songs, and there's no prose for this. I'm not going to put any prose constraints on it yet because I haven't thought about it. But you notice how it's all just formatted quickly, and I don't have to select this. Like, so for example, if I wanted to change the way that these titles are going, all I do is just make a CSS change and then rebuild, and it just takes a couple of minutes. So this is going to be the end of the first sort of tutorial. I mean, really, there's not much that I want to cover here other than you can add images to your document by just adding another node type. So I'll just do that quick and show you how to do that. No, I'll end it. I'll do that in another tutorial. But it's really easy. All you do is you're just putting an image tag in, and you're just putting the files in a particular directory, and then you just swap the file name. So really easy. I'll get to that later. But there you go. So I mean, going over an entire book, like having this sort of information is useful. But let's say that we want to only output certain sections. This is actually more useful, so I won't end it just yet. Let's go node types. I'll do that in a separate tutorial. That's it. All right, we're good.